Hey guys, so I made this video while I was at Scale with Ryan and Jay. Um, I want to apologize about the audio. The microphone that Jay's holding in this video wasn't actually recording, so we're just going off room audio for Jay. I feel really bad about that. But I thought the conversation was too interesting to not release the video. So here's the video. Don't mind the audio. Please give me a break on that. I'm still a noob when it comes to audio. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. We had a lot of fun recording it, and I think it's pretty good.
Hey everybody, we're here today with Ryan, and we have Jay, two awesome content creators. We're at Scale 2022, and we kind of started having this conversation about like why you should buy hardware that's meant for Linux.
Yeah.
And this was your talking points that you were talking about. I wanted to hear more about your thoughts on this, and I think Jay and I have some ideas too.
Yeah, so an interesting thing happened. Normally, obviously, go buy Linux hardware when you can. But we've all been in this long enough that we've had this experience. I've only been in Linux for about 6 years, but I've had this experience in the last 4 years, I would say, where I would go to a store, I'd pick up a new laptop to do a review on my channel or something else, bring it home, put Linux on it. Maybe I had to switch distros, like maybe Pop! OS wouldn't work. I had to try Arch or something. But eventually, a few command line tricks, a couple forum posts later, I could get the thing working perfect.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I was moving recently, and I got rid of all of my 6 or 7 laptops that I had in preparation for the move because I had desktops and other things I was getting rid of. And so, and the conference came up, and the move got delayed. Everything was terrible, so I had to go to the store and pick up something quick. I couldn't order a System 76 or a Tuxedo or anything else in time. I needed to go grab one. No big deal. I've done this 1,000 times. Yeah. I go to Best Buy and Micro Center. I have a list here. I got an HP Omen, an ASUS ROG Zephyrus, a Dell XPS, a Lenovo IdeaPad Pro 5, and a ASUS ZenBook. Now, each one I bought individually and had to return because I could not get Linux to work in them at all. And when I say not at all, I mean you would plug in of course I was using Ventoy, so Pop! OS, Arch, I had all of the different distros, Fedora, things like the keyboard wouldn't initiate at all. There's no ability to type. It didn't wake up. Sometimes you had laptops where you'd have to wait a couple minutes for them to wake. Nothing was working. So then I would just like, well, I'm not going to deal with that because I haven't dealt with this in years. I'm just going to take this back and go get something else, grab something in HP, whatever. Grab that, bring it home. Trackpad wouldn't work. Sound wouldn't work. All of these things. And each time I just kept thinking, because I got so used to, in the last few years, being able to grab pretty much anything off the shelf and bring it home and get Linux to work. I was like, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time trying to figure this out and go through forum posts and things. And it really made me think when me and you met with System 76, and we had this amazing dinner and talk with them about the fact that how important it is for us, if you can afford to. I understand going and getting a used one because you can't afford to get the latest one, but if you can afford to, how important it is for us to be supporting and buying laptops that are made with Linux. Yeah. Right. Because we're not sending the right message to the manufacturers of Dell, HP, ASUS, and all this. They have no idea why I returned those machines. Right? Yeah. But the message we should be sending as a Linux community is if you make it for Linux, we're going to buy it made for Linux, and stop trying, again, if you can afford to, of purchasing these things that aren't meant for Linux and then trying to put Linux on them because it's not getting the message across of what we're wanting to support. Right. Companies like System 76 have done so much for open source and for the community and content creators like us, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's different angles here to attack this conversation because, you brought up a good point. You can go to Best Buy and buy a computer right now, right? You could just touch it. You could see it. You could take it home. And Linux user can't do that, right? Because there's no showroom for us to say, I want that computer in particular. And if you're a business, you're a business. You need a computer right now. You could have like a new hire that just accepted a job offer at the last minute, and you don't have the 2 weeks to get one of those in, but you want your employee that you hired to start working, right? Yeah. So what do? You go to the store and you buy one, and then you think about ThinkPads and all those, which I love, by the way. They have the configuration, I forgot what they call it, but normally you could say I want this hard drive or I want a better video card. But they have these models that are like baseline that you could just say, like, you can have it the next day because there's stacks of them. If you customize it, you wait. But then at what point it's like you can't touch it? It gets hard for people. I think people should be able to have that experience to just go buy something, but they're confused. Well, it doesn't work. People say Linux is great. It's supposed to run on everything, which drives me crazy when people say that, by the way, right? But that's just not really the case. And I think people really have to adjust the way they think about this because, it's challenging.
And in the Mac OS world, right, those users are used to that concept. They don't go buy a Windows machine and be like, hey, this doesn't run Mac OS. Right. They know they're stuck in that ecosystem, which for a different reason they're stuck in that ecosystem.
Right.
And they're okay with that. They may not be able to go get, in fact, when I was at Best Buy, someone was like picking up a DVD rewritable drive. And they went up to the person and they're like, does this work on Mac? And so they were looking at the box and trying to figure it out, but they're used to that concept. Yeah. Yeah. And in Linux, sometimes I think I see users kind of blame, like I didn't blame Linux on this, but I've seen this where they blame Linux, like Linux doesn't work on this thing that I went and bought at the store. And it's really not supposed to. It's kind of a hackery, and thanks to the community that any of this stuff that's not meant to work on Linux has over the years. Yeah.
Well, the thing that I've found is like, for a long stretch of time since I'd say probably 2011 or 12, most of the machines that I've bought just worked pretty fine. Like out of the box, you could just wipe Windows and install Linux, and it worked great. But like before that, in like 2006, 7, 8, 9. It was like you'd buy like a Dell or an HP Elite book or whatever it was with like Beats audio. There was no audio support at all. Yep. There was, and once you like did all the hacks to get the audio working, it didn't support. It only supported the 2 stereo channels. It didn't do like the bass channel that was like built into the laptop. And like you had to do all kinds of weird stuff with Wine and the Windows drivers to get the Wi-Fi to work. And so, I mean, I've been using Linux so long that it's like I've seen it start there in my journey, go to like a rather standard array of peripherals, especially in laptops where you have like Intel Wi-Fi, NVIDIA audio, NVIDIA or Intel chipsets for graphics. But like I have seen recently, there's been a couple laptops that I've had that have just not supported anything out of the box. Like touchscreen didn't work, and those kind of things. So I can see like the trends are kind of coming back around. It's
odd, right?
It's super odd because there was like such good Linux support. And to your point, what we were talking off camera, you were saying earlier that like don't buy, if you're gonna buy like off the shelf stuff from like a big vendor, buy stuff that's like 2 years old. Like wait until Linux actually has support for those chipsets. But what I've found is that like if you just get something from System 76 or a vendor who has like is shipping their machines with Linux on it, they've done that hard work for you. They've vetted the hardware and now it comes like fully supported.
Well, the HP Dev 1's a perfect example of this. I mean, my favorite laptop that I've talked about on the channel for HP, because I did a whole series about supply chain issues and the problems with slave labor and other things. And HP has the cleanest record out of every company out there for a very clean supply chain. So the problem is HP had a lot of kind of bad lines there for a couple of years, but there was one line I found that I loved, which was the HP Dragonfly Elite. And I talked about it constantly. Like it just ran Linux beautifully. It felt beautiful. It had a gorgeous screen. And the HP Dev 1 is actually based on that chassis. And so because of that, I was like, this is a perfect example. It got me thinking, this experience I had, like you talked about, I haven't run into in years. Now I'm experiencing it. It just shows you how important I think it is from a philosophy standpoint of supporting companies that ship with Linux and buying those machines, if you can afford it, with that. And if not, go with a machine that's a couple years old. Interestingly, a lot of these machines, including the HP Omen, I sold the version that was a couple years older that worked perfect with Linux. And so these things, and what I did is some research on the forums and things, and people were saying because of the supply chain constraints that happened after COVID, that a lot of the suppliers that they were using for keyboards and trackpads and other things changed. And so there's been no time for that to adapt into Linux. But I'm afraid of all the new users because of Steam Deck, because of content you're creating and we're creating, bringing all these new people into Linux, that we've kind of had this years of greatness where we're like, just go buy a laptop, put Linux on it. Right. And that may be going away. At least my limited experience, this isn't scientific, but 5 computers later, I can't get Linux on it. So I think the message we want to get out there is, if you can, grab a machine that supports Linux out of the box. Yeah. And usually it comes with our other philosophies too, of repairability and upgradability, which is a win-win for everybody.
So here's a question then that comes from what you just said. What do you tell people who can't afford to buy something from a boutique vendor like System 76 or even the HP Dev 1?
So in my experience, I do a lot of eBaying. I get a lot of my stuff on eBay. I'm not as fancy as you. I don't get all the stuff sent to me. So I eBay it.
I saw a lot of anger flare up.
No, I'm teasing. Yes, give me a machine. So I do a lot of eBay, and honestly, System 76 machines and other things, they're there used on eBay. You can go pick those up, and you're still kind of supporting that ecosystem, so that when you're bringing that to a coffee shop or a conference or somewhere else, and somebody's saying, what are you using? You're not having to say, oh, I just went and bought this HP and put Linux on it and it worked. You're saying, hey, I bought this thing that's meant to run Linux out of the box with people who support Linux. It's fully upgradable, repairable, and you're kind of keeping that philosophy flowing throughout the whole thing.
I'm going to just, so one of the things that I noticed that about this situation is that the human element absolutely comes into play. Yeah. And if you think about, you see a movie, you love this movie, you're going to tell your friends about it, you've got to see this movie, you have to hear this rock band, they're really great. So we're a tribal species, that's how we evolved. We want to tell people about the things that resonate with us. Now back to Linux, right? So you've got to try this, you've got to try Linux, it runs on everything. And people, it just drives me crazy, like they send this message that Linux runs on everything. So people that are getting into Linux, they feel like, well, all these people are saying that it runs on everything, so I should be able to run it on anything, right? And then they do. Linux sucks because my Wi-Fi card is not working, but the message they were sent by people that honestly didn't mean any harm, right? They're just telling people about, they're just excited. Linux, they love it, right? Yeah. It runs on everything, and they hear that message, and then that actually works against Linux when they hear that message. The message we should be sending is that no operating system, I don't care what it is, has 100% compatibility with all hardware. No. Nobody that's a fan of Mac gets, annoyed if Mac won't boot on a ThinkPad. They understand what it runs on, but we send that message and then we pay for it.
To that point, though, like most people who use Windows just expect that Windows works on everything, right?
Right.
And people found out real quick when they started putting Windows on the Steam Deck just how much work it takes to actually support an operating system on a piece of hardware. Valve didn't do that. And because they didn't do that, everybody saw, like, this is what it actually is like. Windows is an objectively inferior experience until someone goes in, or a team of developers go in and customize the drivers for that piece of hardware. And so when it comes to like Linux, you can run Linux on almost any machine, but sometimes you're going to run into massive, like big issues or small issues that can add up to be annoying. And so, my thought process is, like, if someone can't afford to go even on eBay, if they have like an old laptop, like I'm talking like 4 or 5 years old, that you haven't used in a while, you can breathe new life into that machine by going and downloading like an Ubuntu ISO and putting that on there. Use Rufus, flash it onto onto a USB drive, and you can recover all of that stuff right there, that hardware that was just sitting there in your closet.
But one thing that I feel that a lot of people don't notice, and it's just this one thing that's right in front of us, is that yes, Linux doesn't run on everything. I'm going to be devil's advocate to myself here, right? So I've installed, I think, every version of Windows at one point. Even though I'm a Linux guy, I'm also a technologist. I want to keep up to date with what's going on. So even though Linux doesn't run on everything, it does have the best hardware compatibility of any platform in existence. And here's why. Because in Windows users, they don't even think of this. So I was doing a dual boot video at one point on the channel, and I needed to install Windows 11, right? Now I tried this on all of them. And so what happens? I install Windows 11, I go to the device manager, there's 10 exclamation marks for hardware that don't have drivers that I have to manually search for each and every single one of these. What's interesting to me is that when a Windows user who, they know this stuff, right? Like Linux sucks because of compatibility. I'm like, do you remember when you installed Windows and you had to like manually like go and, I forgot what the key is called in the device manager. You have to search for this and scan for it. Go to the device. You'd never have to do that on Linux. The most you have to do is install something for Wi-Fi or the
or a
NVIDIA
graphics card.
Right, graphics card. And it got to a point where, and I got some flack for this, but it's totally true. Like on one of my videos, I'm talking about Wi-Fi compatibility, and like, oh, this is a Realtek, which by the way, Realtek I think is in the HP Dev 1 and it works just fine because it's curated. But I have a scene where I have like several Intel Wi-Fi cards that I purchased for $11 a piece on eBay. So people are like straining themselves trying to force their Wi-Fi card to work, and I'm just opening the bottom. I throw that right in the trash, and then this $11,
putting it
Wi-Fi card I put in there that's natively supported, done.
That's
Problem
awesome.
is some vendors actually won't let you boot your computer if they detect that the Wi-Fi card is different because of Windows.
Yeah.
Because that activation
Yeah.
has 3 points towards the 10 points that's required for a reactivation. And
Right.
OEMs don't want that to happen, so they will lock you from actually changing your hardware. But if you can, sometimes it's just as simple, oh, that component doesn't work. Get rid of it. Replace it with one that does. On a notebook, you can't, though.
Yeah, that's the philosophy situation, though, that we run into is like Android, I've talked about on my channel, being that, yes, it's Linux, but it goes against all the philosophy of Linux out there. It's not private. It's not that secure, frankly. And it's kind of a mess with the ecosystem of software and updates. And it's very unsafe because of its update and patching system and all these things. So, yes, it's Linux, but it doesn't follow our philosophy.
Right.
And when I look at these...
Their business model, too, is like fundamentally at odds with open source philosophy.
100%.
Yeah.
And so when I think about laptops and when you go and you buy something used, and again, you do what you have to with the money you have. We're talking about people who have the resources and ability to pick and choose what they want there. I would rather go buy a used machine that has the philosophies of repairability, upgradability, and that has supported Linux out of the box from the beginning. And we didn't have this choice 6 years ago. Dell wasn't making a Linux machine, or it was maybe there was one, but it was kind of real hidden in the secret project.
One of the first ones they put out.
And then Lenovo now has them, and System 76 has them, and Tuxedo. And one of the issues that I've had with some of the vendors is they didn't have the screens or some of the things that I wanted, like an OLED screen or 4K. But now we have Tuxedo and Starship, others coming out with these 4K and OLED screens, meaning we have options, and the options for people who can't afford them new is go look for them used and pick them up a couple years later. And now you have something that sticks to all of our core philosophies, which to me is very important in Linux.
I think the eBay, like buying something secondhand that already shipped Linux before, especially for like new, like beginners. Like if you're interested in getting into Linux and you don't want to deal with the headache of having to like search like forum posts from 2009 on how to fix this one thing, it's like that's a great suggestion. Yeah,
because to us, we may go recompile a kernel to get Wi-Fi working, or download the Realtek drivers, or plug in a USB Ethernet and all this stuff. But a new user's like, I just want to use my computer and develop something. Like I want to get in and code. And I think for them, that being able to find those, and then us as content creators, really talking about the importance of this, in getting that in people's minds. Now that we have choices, and those choices have been out for a few years, so now they're cheaper, you can find them in the used market and things. I don't know about you, Gardiner, but talking with System 76 and like their passion for wanting to get the message out and support Linux and creators and open source was like, it kind of moved me, like literally moved me. It wasn't one of these sales pitch things. It was like, how can we help get the message out? Not just about our stuff, but get ourselves in the open source community together. And you were there with me, and we were both, I think, like, this is awesome. We got to figure some things out to work with them to get this message out more about this.
I have been friends with people at System 76 for years. And every time I go, I hear things that just give me chills. Like they are absolutely committed to free software, and to like open hardware too. Like that's really, really important. They have the chassis design, the CAD files for the Thelio out on their Git. Yeah, and it's like
amazing,
you
right?
could manufacture it yourself if you had like the time and expertise.
Or you could find a makerspace that has the equipment there.
Right.
That you give them the diagrams. They'll cut some
interesting.
metal for you.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. That's great.
Yeah.
But like that's the kind of thing, and it's like I've been a fan of System 76 for longer than I've had my channel. I remember going on to their website and just being broke and being like,
I could not.
What if I could? Yes.
The original Galago Ultra Pro, it was called at the time.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
the first 1080p display they ever put out. But, you know, one interesting aside I'll mention, because it's kind of interesting hearing, like, you know, the stories you guys are saying about your experiences about how it used to be. So I'm going to tell you what it was like in 2002. You want to hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us.
So, all right. So,
Tell me, Papa.
Did you have to walk uphill with barefoot in the
it
snow?
felt like it, right? Because every time you go to install the NVIDIA driver, you risk bricking the kernel and
Yeah.
reinstall everything.
Yeah.
But then we're not done, okay? Audio cards. Let's just assume it works out of the box, okay? And you didn't have to do anything to get it to work. Only one app could use the sound card at a time. So literally what would happen is I would try to view a video in a browser, right? Play the video. Oh, it's not going to work because this other application got to the sound card first. So now I have to close the browser and reopen it so it can claim the sound card this time and start playing audio. Totally had to deal with that all the time. And, well, actually, let's take a step back. Internet would not work out of the box because you had to actually enable the TCP/IP stack that the browser would use to get online.
Wow.
And let's go back a step further. Computer can boot from CD. Guess what? Linux can't do that for whatever reason. So you need to find a floppy disk and create a special floppy disk that can access the CD-ROM drive to kick off the installer. These are the things that I dealt with when I first started.
So you're saying we're whiny. That's what you're
No,
getting at.
Yeah.
I'm not.
He's like, listen, when
You're
I was using
youngins.
punch cards, it took us 20 minutes to punch out the code and then put them in.
Hey, back in my day, we had to run the vacuum pump with the.
But you're,
Right.
it's
But
true.
here's the thing: we have to recognize, like, also where we've come from.
That's true.
Because
It's
we
true.
have made some progress
good point.
that
Yeah.
led to the
Oh, yeah.
progress that we're having right now. But you know, okay, let's rewind a little bit. The user wants to run Linux.
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard sometimes, but if you adjust your expectations accordingly
Right.
and understand you're changing the operating system, that's like ripping the tablecloth off the table without the dishes scattering to the floor. It's easier said than done. So if you can just think about hardware compatibility, getting LSPCI output, or even just having somebody who has Windows just screenshot several sections of the device manager could tell you what hardware is there, that can help. Or you could just join a forum and I'm thinking about buying this thing. What do you guys think about compatibility? I think somebody's going to answer, and that might even be easier. Let someone who knows what LSPCI even is in the first place deal with that, right?
Yeah.
And then you could get some traction that you otherwise wouldn't get. But my advice is, like, don't get frustrated. Stick with it, because here's the interesting thing. I almost gave up on Linux when I first started. A lot of people don't know this. I was starting around 2002. I was like, there's too many distributions. I don't have time for this. I actually said, no, I'm done. I didn't even install it yet.
Right.
I just looked at how many there were. But a twist of fate, college professor comes in, I'm starting a class on Linux. Anybody want to join? I will join that. And it was that individual, community college, if you're out there, you know who you are. It's like that was what set everything in motion. So my advice is you stick with it. Don't get frustrated and give up. It is great. You just have to have the right device, and you'll be totally fine with it.
Yeah. Yep. And Linux opens doors too. I mean, it really does. Like, I mean, I talked to somebody down on the expo floor, and they were like, I found your channel, I found Jay's channel, I found whoever else. They got me into Linux, and I was like fresh out of high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do, except I loved computers. And because I started getting into Linux, I now work at this, I don't remember what booth they were at, but they were working at one of the booths, and they were like, it's because of my passion and the fact that I didn't give up trying Linux that I'm able to have this really nice paying job that ships me all over the world so I can hawk this software,
Exactly.
It's Linux is like such a powerful thing, and
Yeah.
so if you can get your hands on like hardware that actually is meant to run Linux, you're going to have a great time. And once you have like the constitution with Linux, like the know-how, then you can buy the devices that don't work and have fun trying to get them to work.
Yep, that's right. It's part of a hacking experience there.
Yeah.
And if I had time, I would have sat there and figured out how to get one of those to work. But, you know, when you run out of time, like you said, we're going to conference and things, it's important, I think, for those who don't want to deal with that frustration, but want to experience pure Linux and be able to get in there and do the things we're talking about in our channel right away. Grab those new systems that we have in offering. We haven't had this before. No. This is the first time where you go to HP, go to Dell, go to System 76, go to Tuxedo, and get a machine shipped to you with Linux that's beautiful, perfect, and has all the specs and things capable of whether you're wanting to game on it and do development, or you just want something ultra portable. You've got all the options. Even the Pinebook Pro. I mean, if you want something like that, if you want to mess with ARM.
ARM. Oh
yes.
my God, that's so much fun.
You've got so many cool options in Linux, so let's talk about them, let's use them, and I think these companies are hungry to get more people, you know, these individuals that are frustrated with Windows 11. The requirements now for Windows 11 are so high. I think we have a whole new group of young people coming in to Linux that are done with Windows 11. And we need to make sure they understand that, in a way, there's some similarities of what you can expect, kind of like what Apple people deal with and know. And what we're asking people to understand and know is that you just can't go to a store and assume it's going to work, especially recently, at least from my personal experience. And I'll be going to System 76 and picking something up, or a Tuxedo, a Frameworks laptop, something like that. And again, that holds all the philosophies of Linux, and I think that's the key.
Another key is the distribution, because a lot of people don't know this, but the hardware support depends on the age of the distro you are installing. If you install something that was released a few years back, because Linux Mint keeps releasing new releases, but what a lot of people might not know is their base can be up to 2 years old when it first comes out, because they'll still keep using the same base. So what you got to keep in mind is that, yes, both Windows and Linux have drivers built in, and sometimes, to Windows defense, you put it on the right piece of hardware, if those drivers are built in, you won't have any exclamation marks in the device manager, everything just works. Same with Linux. If the support is there, everything just works. But Windows is also designed because it's rooted in an environment where you have people building computers that are used to getting a CD or something like that in the motherboard box that has the drivers in there. And they just run that CD and they can get all those drivers installed. So it's not really different, but Linux is even more dependent on the drivers that are built into the operating system than even Windows is. So, for example, Debian Stable. No offense to Debian. I love Debian. It's a great distribution. But do not run Debian Stable on a computer that you buy from Best Buy right now, because it will not work. I promise you. But if you want to run Debian, here's what you do. You install Debian testing first, and in the sources list, you take out the word testing, replace it with the code name for the release, because as Debian testing, which has newer drivers, stabilizes, then you're going to be rolled right into Debian Stable, and then from that point, you could keep following Debian Stable. But you might have to start with testing, because testing is going to have newer drivers. But don't start with stable if you are like buying something that just came out yesterday.
Now, since this is on Gardiner's channel, all new users Arch is the answer you want.
Arch?
I'm teasing. Like I said, it's because it's on your channel. No, I'm teasing. I think Fedora, honestly, Fedora is the one.
Manjaro's the one.
Manjaro would be a good one. Yeah.
Here's the thing about Manjaro.
Gen 2. No, Gen 2.
Gen 2. Oh my gosh. Chrome?
Yes. Oh, of course. Naturally. Yeah.
Don't mention Gen 2 on my channel, because I'll have like 200 people asking me to do a video on it, which I probably should do, to be honest.
All of us have 200 people asking us to do Gen 2
videos. That's all the Gen 2 users.
Yes.
No. I don't know what I was going to say. I was going to say, Manjaro. You brought up Manjaro. Now I'm going to talk about it.
Okay.
Manjaro is actually a great experience for new users, I think.
It is.
Like, you have, like, a very up-to-date kernel. You have bleeding edge, or not bleeding edge, but like stable modern packages from, and you have AUR for everything else that's not there.
And there's a kernel manager that's built into the distribution.
Right, the kernel manager.
But you can open and then, I don't like the kernel that it's shipped with. I'm going to just graphically, not command line, click on the one I want, hit the button, reboot, and you're in a different kernel.
My only issue, and I love Manjaro, and I love the work that they do, but my only issue with recommending it for new users is the fact of because the AUR is a huge compelling reason to offer it to new users, believe me.
Yeah.
But it's just the package kit breaking and upgrades and things that happens periodically where you have to go receive a new key and things like that. And I think for a new user to be like, what the heck's a key? Why is it giving me this message? Whatnot. Now, if you're a committed new user, 100%, meaning you're committed to learning and going on forums. To me, though, the go-to distro used to be Ubuntu for new users. To me, it's Fedora now.
Yeah,
It's getting up,
Because
it's there,
it's that in between the Arch and Ubuntu. You're getting the latest kernel release. Some cases, Fedora is ahead of Arch in the release of packages.
That's true.
And it has just this amazing community behind it as well. There are a few things because they don't ship. You know, of course, it's easy to enable now. They're making it easier, but it doesn't ship out of the box if you have NVIDIA and things, the proprietary drivers, which is a little bit of a pain to get over. But overall, the stability of Fedora, the community around Fedora, the cleanliness of that distro now has made it my kind of go-to for people to say,
really
if you want to try Linux, do that. But I'm with you, Gardiner. Like, I love some Manjaro and I love Arch, period. And I get a lot of flack for it. And I've found people who are new who want to go through that experience of installing Arch.
Yeah.
But they're special people and you have to know who they are before you just
if you want to
recommend
know what
it.
the secret with Arch is, this is kind of not for beginners, unless you're a beginner that wants to become an advanced user. LVM snapshots are the best thing with Arch because literally, it's time to do that update. LVM snapshot, then you update, reboot. Okay, things are broken. No problem. Restore the snapshot. Wait 3 more days.
That's a good
And
point.
then because you can roll back LVM snapshots infinitely, so you can literally just take an LVM snapshot right before you do that install. Obviously, test it first, before you actually use it in production. LVM snapshots, snapshot your package
And
base.
Garuda does that out of the box with ButterFS snapshotting with Arch, which is a really unique approach to Arch as well. But all the distros are getting so darn good too.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have a distro war anymore.
I know.
Like it used to be so easy. Like, of course this is better and this is why. Now it's like they all have their place.
They
and
really do.
They're so good.
Specialized. Yeah.
One of my things that I used to dislike about Debian Stable that is now no longer an issue at all, so Debian fans, I'm not insulting you, promise, is that flat packs make a huge difference with Debian Stable because one of the problems with Debian is that you are locked to really old software versions. It's to be more stable, I get it. But we have flat packs now. You don't have to manually install proper Firefox. You don't have to manually install anything. You can get a flat pack of whatever pieces of software you want to be bleeding edge while keeping everything else stable. And you have that choice. And in Debian, we didn't have that before. We were either, we're going to have old everything or we're going to be on testing. But now you can have stable, then run your flat packs, and you can have the best of both worlds easily.
Well, you know what I wish, Gardiner? I wish I was talking to people who are more passionate about Linux, because clearly we're not. Clearly we couldn't go on for 20 hours talking about Linux.
No, clearly we didn't fly across the country to come to Scale over on a red eye, and I'm going home on a red eye too, and I'm not upset about that at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, we love Linux, and it shows. But I love what you mentioned about the doors it will open for people.
Yes.
And so if you're interested in that, again, going back to where we started with this conversation, consider checking out System 76, Tuxedo, or one of the major vendors and their Linux ones, so that you can start opening those doors with maybe out the frustration of starting with recompiling a kernel for a keyboard to get working.
And if you have a bad experience with Linux, it's not working with your hardware, I get that it's frustrating. But gently let somebody know, file a bug, I have this thing, this is the hardware that I have, it's not working. And even if you plan on returning it back to the store, you could still really, put in a bug report and let somebody know. So I think one of the problems with Linux in general, actually it's not even Linux specific, is that we get too complacent with technology. This is failing and erroring out. So I'll just use this workaround instead. And then nobody knows that there was a bug because we're
They
too...
could have been fixed, yeah.
I've seen people with random reboot problems on their phone. Oh, no problem. I was going to make a phone call. I just got to wait for my phone to reboot. Like it's not even a problem, right? So let's let the project know that on your piece of hardware, you did not have a good experience. Give them some information. Be patient with them because they will ask you for information. They will ask you for output, and it might get tiring. But what you're doing is you're helping prevent the next person that tries that particular model. Maybe they will have a good experience because you let somebody know that you didn't have a good experience.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, guys, we could clearly go on for hours, But
Right.
thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
This was fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to plug, either of you?
Well, I'm on DasGeek channel and Destination Linux and Tux Digital, which we're gonna have Gardiner. And you are going to
Yeah.
come on too, right? You're
Of
gonna
course
come.
I
Look,
am.
I got him to commit right here on
Yeah.
camera.
I
He
actually
couldn't say
mentioned
no.
earlier, like, I will be on whatever podcast
So yes,
you
we're gonna
want.
do some collabs because I think it's important for all of us content creators too as well. And Gardner, like, I just got to meet you,
Right.
And Gardner, we got to do dinner, and like, I don't know, I felt like I found a lost brother or something.
me too, man.
We've got so many things to
Yeah.
talk about. We're gonna do so much of this collab. So thank you
Yeah.
for doing this, and thanks for bringing us together here. It's
Hey,
awesome.
man, my
Absolutely.
pleasure. Thank you for being here, both
And
of
I'm,
you.
and I'm
Thank
going
you.
to plug learnlinux.tv. That's the website. The name of the channel is Learn Linux TV. So, and match it so it's easy to find one
Yeah.
from the website or for the channel. So I do, reviews and things like that. I'm more so an education company. So I like to do tutorials and teach people stuff. So
Nice.
I think we all, and that's what I love about our content. We're not competing. We complement each other.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
So it's like, I will lift him up. I told him the other day, we're getting your views up, man. We're going to
Yeah.
crank those views up there as much as we can. And same, I offer
Yeah.
that to everybody because
I
I
love that.
want the community to be lifted up and to help each other. And together we can totally solve this problem. And maybe in 5 years, it's like, remember how hard it was? It's
Yeah.
not hard anymore.
Remember when we were pumping that pump and using the punch cards?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. You can hit that like button, or
Yep.
as I started saying recently, like that smash button.
Nice.
People love that for some reason. So like that smash button,
Right.
hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in the next